Okay, thank you everybody for joining our first ever MFL Town Hall. My name is Joey Joseph. I'm here with Sean Thomas and Toby Kabakatu, the MFL board. We set this up because, upon reflection, our real first touch point with the entire MFL is on tournament day, right? So we thought, we really want to get ahead or touch base with the group up front and talk a little bit about the season, the upcoming journey. Definitely a miss to wait until essentially the day that we wrap up to reach out. So I think this is going to be a good opportunity for a lot of discussion, a lot of communication. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Toby, if you want to move on.
Yeah, so throughout the town hall, if you have a question for us, please use the chat section of the Zoom meeting to send us your questions and we'll answer them at the end. If you're struggling with Zoom, feel free to send us an email and we'll answer them at the end. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lexine Varghese. He's going to start us off with the opening prayer and share a story and about her story with the MFL. She is one of the captains of the CMTC women's team. Lexine, the floor is yours.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So before I begin, I'm gonna start with an opening prayer. Father God, I just praise you in thankfulness for the evening that you've allowed us to come together and just join in this fellowship, Father. I praise you in thankfulness for the MFL board and the leadership and all the hard work behind the scenes leading up to the tournament day, Father. I pray that everything is done and for your glory, Lord. Lord, as teams are getting together and deciding if they want to play, Father, I pray that they're able to find fellowship and faith through football, Lord. And I pray that we're able to just have a good time here and get to know the MFL and anything that any questions that we may have, Lord. I pray that it may be answered, Lord. Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity to get together once again. In your precious and holy name, I pray.
Amen.
All right, so this time of reflection, just remembering God's goodness, has been a blessing. So I want to thank the MFL board for just giving me the opportunity to share in the story of God's goodness in my life to you all. Growing up, I feel like my childhood was just a whirlwind of changes. As a family, we moved frequently. We weren't really staying in one place enough to kind of build those relationships, those friendships. We weren't able to kind of plant roots anywhere, and my parents, as immigrant parents, did their best, but the financial hardships kind of dictated our next move. So as you may assume, I felt a lot of loneliness. I felt a lot of loneliness because every time we moved, it meant that it would be a new school. And every time there was a new house, I was not only physically unpacking, but I was also emotionally unpacking. Every time I had to say goodbye to a new friend, it just kind of deepened that isolation and that loneliness that I felt in my heart. And I knew of God, and I knew there was a God through church, and I had faith in the back of my mind, but at the same time, I feel like I longed for this relationship with God. And, there were times where this loneliness and this weight of depression and isolation kind of took over. And I won't get into so many details, but, I wondered, what would it look like if I had a true relationship with God? And it was in the darkest moments that I realize now that God was always there. He was always carrying me through. He was always there, strengthening me, there to me. And I know in middle school I struggled, in high school I struggled, and going to college for me to Michigan State University. So it's about 4 or 5 hours from Chicago. So more loneliness. My biggest fear was straying away from God. But to my surprise, it wasn't really until college my faith truly bloomed. Chechi at the time, she's from Detroit, Martha Church, actually. At that time, she was a senior and I was a freshman. She's doing amazing work now in missions and traveling the world. But I remember she met me in the union of the university, and she was the first person to truly share the gospel with me. So it was in that moment I realized that I had a friend in Jesus all along, someone who not only lived for me, but also died for me. After that, I was encouraged to join a campus ministry that she was a part of, and I found this sense of community that I was always longing for. And this campus ministry kind of rekindled that faith that I always wanted, that faith that I yearned for. And I was also able to bring bits and pieces of that back to my home church, from Chicago Marthoma Church. So I was able to serve in the youth ministry there, and that was a big part of my life. And I was able to, well, this lonely kid was able to form relationships and deepen those relationships with my people from church. And I want to thank the MFL for creating that space for women specifically now to play football, because that's been such a blessing, especially because we know that women in our culture don't really have many tournaments or space in tournaments to play ecumenically. So this inclusivity has been significant, and it's been great, just not just for me, but for many women, I'm sure, in this community. And this reinforces my belief that faith isn't just, although personal, it's also more importantly about how we engage and we uplift other people as well. So I really do. I'm excited for MFL. I'm excited for the space and the growth that I've seen these past few years, and just again, just thank you for the opportunity to reflect on God's greater plan for my life, our life, and I hope that this serves as an encouragement to you all.
Thank you, Lexi.
Thank you, Lexine. So, we want to start with, what's our purpose, what's our mission, and our role specifically as board members. So obviously you can read, what our mission statement is: serve as a medium to help build strong bonds for both men and women within and between the Malayali Christian churches through the game of flag football. So if I were to just summarize that, we want to build fellowship within and between the church communities through football. That's always been, our mission since this group took over. How we do that through supporting the community through the event journey. Actually, if I could take a step back, there's a lot of things that we do as a board, right? And if I were to list out those roles and responsibilities, the financial management, the event planning, we'd be here for a long time, and I'd lose probably most of you. So I'm just going to boil it down to a couple, key points or elements to really what our core responsibilities are, and what we're accountable for. And so that's, again, supporting the community through the event journey, developing rules for safety, right? So if we're not keeping our participants safe, then definitely it's we're doing something wrong. And to really center every decision we make around the growth and continuation of our mission. And I know it sounds like very broad, but if we look at every change, every decision we've made, and a lot of them have not come easy. The debate is always around how are we achieving our mission? How are we supporting the growth of our Malayali Christian community? So some of the things that you won't hear us talk about is like two topics that we hear often or get feedback on most frequently is one, the competition. When you change this rule or you tweak this, you change how the game is being played. And for us, and for me personally, 5, 10, 15 years from now, when you think back to the 2024 tournament, you're not going to remember the competition level. That's not something you're going to reflect on. You're going to think about, the folks that you played with, your friends, your teammates, the community, those bonds that you built, and how those have lasted, hopefully. And that's our focus, right? Tweaking the rules to make it safer. It really isn't a compromise for us or from our perspective. The other topic that comes up once in a while is, hey, I really wish I could play with my friends. And I think there's a lot of amazing venues for that. It's definitely important. It's valuable. But that's just not our purpose. That's not the community or the segment of our community that we're trying to grow. And there's a lot of other places we can do that, but that's not necessarily our vision mission. If it just so happens that some of them are within your church community, awesome, that's fantastic. But that's not necessarily what drives us or what our mission is. So that's, just a quick summary of, what our purpose is and what our roles and responsibilities are. Toby?
Yeah, so most churches, we want to talk about like MFL captains for a second. So most churches already have like a defined leadership structure already. And if you're a new player who want to get plugged in, then finding those captains is the easiest way to get connected and be part of a team. So if you're looking to join a church team, you can just email us at the mfl@gmail.com and we can help you get connected to them. So this is a tough role. And so give these captains your props because everyone plays in MFL for different reasons. I mean, some play to win, some play with their friends, some to give them an excuse to get out and exercise. And so a captain needs to be responsive to all those nuances and try their best to meet their needs. But so there's that one aspect of it of like having a defined leadership structure. But then technically in the rule book, anyone can be a captain. So as long as everyone on your team goes to the same church, and if you think you can put together a team, then give it a go. Like be an upstart and do it. I know I'm part of the Zero community, and we have a more organized leadership structure in the summer, but in the winter it's a free for all. So anyone can put a team together, and there's nothing in the rules that holds you back from building up your own team. But whether you're an established captain or an upstart, there are a few things that we want you to keep in mind. I know there are a lot of kids who haven't even heard about the MFL. I know it's surprising for a lot of us that have been playing for 15 years to hear, but if you can put together a strategy to find them and ask them to play and be part of this community and invest in the development, that is one role of a captain. And the other thing is to balance competition and playing time. And has always been a struggle for every captain. And if you are part of a bigger church community and if you have 30 plus people, then we encourage you to kind of create multiple teams because there is no replacing the experience of being out on that field, matching wits, pushing yourself, making those mistakes, learning how to recover from them, experiencing the hard losses, like to give folks the opportunity to be part of that arena is huge. And then finally, to talk about a succession plan. That's a lot of, I know with the MFL board, we are preparing transition. We'll get to that in a later slide. But with every, church team, we encourage everyone to think of what the succession plan for your team will be. Let folks know how they can lead if they're called to be that. And the goal of any good leader is to find a way to make yourselves obsolete, like the MFL board included, So find a way to give your team the ability to be self-sufficient and, really plan for longevity for that team.
Bowman, you're up.
Thank you for catching that, Toby. So again, we going through the roles, and next up is the athlete. Starting with humble, hungry, and patient. This is actually a leadership mantra that slightly tweaked in leadership. It's called humble, hungry, smart. Pivoted a little bit for sports. So, it's common, right? When you've got young athletes, myself included, when we showed up at our first MFL, first sporting event, there's a sense of confidence and I can do it-ness that is, part of just being, a young athlete. And it's fantastic. But at the same time, football and sports in general is it's so pure in that at the end of the day, almost always, talent is recognized, performance is recognized, achievements are recognized because there's one common goal. That's what's awesome about all sports, but especially football. So I think, for myself, I didn't get to play in the position I wanted for 4 or 5 years. And retrospectively, reflectively, there's a reason for that, right? Those who are in leadership saw things that I was missing. And I wish somebody had told me back then that, hey, Joey, you need to be humble. And by humble, it's defined as not bowing down or getting on your knees or anything like that, but it's just recognizing that you don't know everything, that you're not the best at everything, that you have gaps and opportunities. And then hungry, which, the next piece leading into hungry is, how do you fill those gaps, and taking the initiative to go do that, right? Whether it's, hey, I need to work on my footwork or my route running or whatever the case, but you won't know unless you're humble enough to ask the question, hey, what do I have to do to be number one, or get higher up on the depth chart, or whatever it may be. And lastly, patient, in that I think, we're definitely in like a very now culture, right? What feels good now, what pays dividends now. But that's not football, right? I mean, there's nobody who's necessarily born with the football in their hand, very few anyway. And it takes hard work, just like in life, to achieve something, and that doesn't happen overnight. So what I ask and challenge all young athletes to do is to be patient. That old phrase, trust the process, right? So moving on, don't expect that ride to be easy, right? And that's why you see some folks drop off, and it's unfortunate, because that's like you hear about grit all the time. That's a skill in of itself, not quitting, right? So I encourage you guys to don't let the first road bump be your last road bump. And it's the folks that push through that really find success. Ask questions, with no preconceived notions, right? A lot of times when we get asked questions, whether it's here or in the office, there's a backstory playing in our head, or when we ask questions, we're thinking, okay, well, this is why this person did this, but I'm going to ask anyway. But if you go into it with the preconceived notion of, my captain's not starting me because his buddy is this and da da da, you're really not going to get much out of the conversation, right? So definitely ask, but do it with the intention that you're going to listen, right? I think you're going to get a lot more out of those conversations. Challenge the status quo. So if there's things going on in your team, or you can apply this personally. Challenge, why are we doing things this way? Is this really the best way? And I think if you do it respectfully, you're going to get, maybe things won't change overnight, but you're going to earn the respect of your teammates and leadership that in your approach in doing so. Share the experience. It's crazy to be able to say this, but 20 years ago, someone invited me to MFL. And because of that, it had a profound experience, or I was able to experience this profoundly. And I want that for everybody. And hopefully, if you guys are enjoying the MFL as athletes, ask you to do the same thing. You never know how much of a hole something like this community can fill for someone until you ask, until you reach out. And the worst thing that can happen is they could say no, but maybe next time, next season, next tournament, next event, they come out and it can really, fill something for them or add something to their life. And then lastly, don't be afraid to try. And again, so much of football, mimics life, right? It's folks who are successful failed way more, a ton of times, before they got to the level of success that we see, right? So don't let a drop ball, a missed flag, a bad pass deter you from continuing to try, right? We've all gone through it many, many times. And just the fear of failure can be that debilitating and keep you from making the steps, the progressions that you want and you need to get to that whatever that next level is for you. I think
if I can share one quick story about that last point. I remember one time I was at the draft tournament, and I was at the sidelines talking to someone, and our team was winning by like one touchdown or so. In the last few seconds, the other team scored, and we're down by like an extra point or two. And so there was only like a few seconds left, and the only shot we had was to go for Hail Mary. And we only had one play pretty much. And all we had to do was to throw the ball down and see if we could win. And I was on the sideline, so I wasn't in the game. but I was talking to someone, and he was like, like some 20, 21-year-old kid from college or something like that. And and he said something I was really curious. He said, man, I would not want to be that receiver right now. And then I turned to him and I was like, why? If you're the receiver and you went out to catch that Hail Mary and you caught it, you'd be the hero of the game. Like everybody would cheer for you. You'd be, like that'd be such a great moment. Like, why would you not want to be that receiver? And then he turns to me and he's like, because if like, yeah, that's true. But if I dropped it, I would just be beating myself over the head for the next week. And I just don't want to go through that. And then he turns to me and he's like, hey, do you ever feel that way? Or something like that. And I thought about it and I was just like, no, I don't feel that way. Like I want to be that receiver. I love to take a chance at catching that ball. And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, why was there such a big difference between what I wanted to do and what he wanted to do in our years? And I think it boiled down to the fact that I have been in that position of last second trying to catch a ball and missing the ball and losing the game for the entire team. And I know what it's like to fail and to lose the game for everybody and be the person that lost the game. And I've had that experience, and I also know that I could get over it. And so when it came to his fears, like he was over extrapolating how bad that that would feel in his imagination. And so that's why he was so fearful of it. But then with me, I feel like because I knew I could get over it and I've experienced it, and it was something that I've learned how to deal with, it was all upside, and that's kind of like the beautiful thing about playing in this game is that you learn how to manage those failings and manage those fears as well. So to go out there, don't be afraid to try, drop the ball, all I can do is score from it.
Absolutely. I've dropped many passes. Um, a few notes about the tournament. So, like always, the MFL tournament is the second Saturday of August. And specifically, it'll be Saturday, August 10th. Registration is going to open on July 1st and closes sharply July 12th at midnight. Just a big note, we do not allow changes after registration closes. We're very strict on that point. The registration fee this year is $35 per player, and we ask that captains submit one payment for the whole team. There is no roster cap, and players must be at least 15 years old on the day of the tournament. Two more points. Players must be associated with the team's church affiliation. We'll talk a bit more about what it means to be associated with a church. But smaller churches also have the opportunity to merge with their sister churches with board approval. So if you are a part of a smaller church and you feel like you want to merge, send us an email and we have a form that we ask you to fill out and we'll follow up. Sean, we've gotten some questions on why we require players to be associated with a team's church and why we are a church versus church tournament. Would you mind touching on why the MFL is choosing that path?
To be a church-based tournament? Yeah, I can talk to that a little bit. So back when MFL first started, it wasn't a church-based tournament. It was a free-for-all, bring whoever you want and just play for the sake of playing. And people brought the most competitive teams, just like cherry-picked who they thought was the best players and got some really great talent and played. And it devolved into a tournament of just pure competition, and there wasn't much like faith. And I don't know, you could always argue whether or not we're really building fellowship or really building faith, but there wasn't anything more than just, it didn't seem like there was anything more than just like building or just competing. Like that was like the main goal. And so when we kind of took over and tried to make it like a church-based tournament, the vision of it was that if we were able to constrain who you were to pick to be on your team, at some point you'd run out of people. You just can't cherry pick the best players. And you have to invest in your church community and look at the people who are younger and upcoming and say like, hey, it's not that I want you to be on this team. I need you to be on this team because without you, I don't have a team. And there's something beautiful about asking someone that is needed as opposed to wanting, and really investing in their development. And so the vision that we put together when we try to make it church based was to say like, hey, let's take a step away from just this horse trading and trying to figure out who the best players are, and really try to incentivize people to invest in their own communities. And for one of the reasons, even though everyone's always geared and motivated to be competitive, and that's great and that's fine. But at the very least, have this mechanism where they're incentivized to invest in their own communities. And that's the vision, at least.
Yeah, fantastic. And when we speak to church affiliation, we don't define it very strictly. It's purposely loose. So if your mom or dad is associated with a particular Bengali church, that's a valid reason to play for that team's church. If you're married into the church, another valid reason. Yeah, so we're getting some questions on some further topics on that, and we will follow up. Next slide, gameplay rules. So the rule book for the 5-on-5 tournament and 7-on-7 tournament is on our website. And I'm not going to go through the whole rule book, but there are 4 rules we harp on every tournament. And we're just going to take the opportunity here to reinforce that. We want to challenge all players, all captains here to work on not swearing during games. I know it's sport, it's competitive, it brings everything out of us, but I want to challenge all of us to control our language, because whether we want it or not, we are role models when we step out on that field. And when you look around you, you're going to see 5-year-old, 6-year-old, wide-eyed watching us play. And it's a great opportunity for us to set an example of how we can play. I can't think of the word, but without swearing. A few other things: no jewelry is allowed, so nose rings, earrings, etc. No eyeglasses. Contacts are fine, of course. Sport goggles are fine, but no eyeglasses during playtime. And hard-billed hats have to be worn backwards, or you could wear floppy hats. And these are all in the name of player safety. Flag football is a full contact sport. We're trying to keep our athletes safe.
And Toby, if I could just add one more.
Yes, please.
It always comes up every tournament. No pets on the field. It's just one more thing for us to manage. So it's part of our rules. I love pets. I got a cat. Someday we'll be a dog owner, and I get it, but it's just not the event for that. So please do not bring your pet. Please let your teammates, your parents, your uncles, your aunts, let them know that there's no pets. Nobody wants to be the one that walks up to someone who brought a pet and say, sorry, you can't be here. But if we let one, we gotta let everybody, and we don't want any pets in the field. Thanks, Toby.
Yeah, you're up, Joe.
Okay, so out-of-state teams, we've got a couple that have, starting with Detroit. The Marthos have been here a couple years now. A lot of experience in the tournament. Dallas, the Orthos from Dallas, the Ceros from North Carolina. We hope to see you guys back. We're continuing to grow the MFL outside of the state line. We've got some interest from a team, Knot team in New York. So please continue to spread the word, share the Facebook page, the videos, the the Instagram, and develop some interest. Has really been a great thing for a lot of our communities. We want to share that with other churches outside of Illinois.
Yeah, so one thing we want to kind of harp on is how important recruitment is. So we want as many people as possible to be involved in this tournament, experience what it's like to be on that field, be part of the communities. And so whether you're desperate for players and need to build a team, or whether you already have a big team and just want to bring more folks into the community, I want to share some examples of what we've heard other people do that helped to bring new talents, new people into the tournament. So I know there's, especially at Ciro, a couple of the captains would go to 10th, 11th, 12th grade Sunday school classes and just let the men and women there know that MFL exists and welcome them to come out to practice. And that was huge in just letting people know that we exist and that they're welcomed, and that personal ask goes a long way, especially for the youth. And it's really surprising to know how many people or how many kids don't even know that we exist. So don't underestimate that. Church bulletins, announcements, also a fantastic way. Jomi, can you talk about how you were able to recruit some teams for the women's tournament through the sports groups?
Through the sports groups,
I think it was an example of it, like you finding a volleyball team.
oh, I think actually through someone in Toby's personal network, they put us in touch with one of the ladies who played in the women's volleyball tournament. And through that touch point and connecting through our Instagram account, and also sharing, posts regularly regarding who the captains were, we were able to help support building some of the, or adding to or augmenting some of the women's teams. So the Instagram marketing helped find the right people and also, add to those teams.
And then I'm a little biased in this one, but another example would be that I know there's a Muslim Salah co-ed football league at U of I, and that is ripe for picking for any of those folks that want to play. So if you're on the call and you're looking to get plugged in, and you don't have a church team yet, email us at themfl@gmail.com or Instagram message us at themfl, and we can find captains for your different teams at different churches, so you can get plugged in with that team.
Thank you, Sean. As some of you know, we support a charity every year, and proceeds from the tourneys throughout 1 year go to the charity we choose. Last year, we worked with Hearts in Motion, and over the past 13 years of donating to charities, it was the most we've ever donated at 3,300. We were very proud that the community stepped up and helped us raise a lot of money for a very valuable charity. We're excited to say that this year we're supporting Operation Smile. They provide cleft surgeries and related support for families who can't afford it. And we're looking forward to learning more about Operation Smile and sharing that with all of you throughout the MFL season. And Sean, you chime in on some of the efforts we did last summer to raise money and what worked very well.
Oh yeah, one great thing we did yesterday that was a resounding success was the MFL first ever charity bake sale. And so if any of you guys are willing to bake anything for that event, let us know. One suggestion we got was to have more healthy food, so the athletes would also purchase it and buy it as well. But whatever it is that you want to bake, would be really, really appreciated. And then we did have a bunch of kids that did a great job of just heckling everyone who passed by to come and purchase and buy, and all those proceeds went to the charity. And so we want to do that same thing again for this year's tournament. So we just need volunteers to help bake anything. And then if you also have kids that want to help volunteer to man the booth, email us at themfl@gmail.com and we can get you plugged in.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay, so some updates on the board. You guys hopefully saw that we've been taking applications for the next generation of the board. In the next couple of years, we expect a full turnover. It's been a fantastic journey, but we all feel it's time for the next set of leaders to take over and take the MFL to whatever the next level is. So retiring or have retired Sherwin Varghese, who has been with us for a long time and has been playing for a long time and has helped us in a lot of ways, is already retired. And over the next couple of months, Stan and Austin will be retiring as well. So I want to thank them for their contribution, their work, and to make the MFL what it is today. And again, look forward to sharing the news on who some of the next board will be over the coming months.
All right, so this is possibly my favorite event of the year. This is going back to the roots of how I got into playing football. So in a draft tournament, there's no refs, no cameras, just playing for the love of the game. And this is also a great way of meeting with folks from other teams. So the way it works is that you register individually, and then once we get everyone who registered, we'll have a draft, and we'll let you know which team you got drafted into, and then you just show up and play. And if we have enough teams, we'll make it tournament style. If we don't have enough teams, we'll make it pickup style. But in any case, we'll have 2 tournaments, one for men, an all men's tournament, and an all women's tournament. So everyone, take a second, check your calendars. If you are free on June 15th at 9 a.m., then either Venmo us at the MFL or send us a Chase Zelle at themfl@gmail.com and just let us know what your preferred position is, receiver, corner, quarterback, whatever it is, and your church affiliation. And then you'll be good to go. So this is a really fun, low-key, low-stress event to just play football for the love of the game.
Okay, I encourage everyone to send us questions through the chat. We've gotten a lot of questions about one of the original women's teams and some of the constraints on their team. I think it'd be best for us to follow up with them separately. They've all brought up fantastic points, and I want to give the appropriate space and time to answer their questions. But if anybody else has questions on MFL 21, questions about rules, eligibility, great time to ask.
Is it possible to be addressed so other teams also know what's going on?
I don't necessarily think this is the best avenue for it, but feel free to ask though. Sure.
Just I know that it's a loaded question, but just simply the most basic question is why our team has a 12-person cap while other teams can be unlimited. We do think it poses a safety risk. So even if that little bit could be addressed, everything else can be addressed later.
There's referring to the football team, the grandmother team that played in the original tournament, and they're constrained to a 12-person cap to maintain their original roster, since they're not transitioning to a fully church-based team. Sean or Joey, do you feel like it's appropriate to speak to that right now?
Yeah, this is a very specific situation for one particular team. So when we first started the tournament, we had, we started the women's tournament and we had it a free-for-all. We didn't make it church-based because we just wanted to see how many people there were. And we weren't even sure if there was going to be enough women to even have a tournament. So we didn't want to put too many restrictions on it. So everyone brought folks, put together a team. But at some point, we want to transition the tournament to the same vision that we had for the MFL tournament for the men's. And so the issue came where we asked everyone to transition into a church-based tournament and not just kind of like cherry pick everyone from whatever team like we had in like the original MFL. The complication that we had was that there were some teams that wanted to stay together. And so we try to come to a compromise and say, hey, listen, if you have a team that you want to stay together, then like, okay, we'll create a grandmother rule for this specific team that if you were playing before and then now they were transitioned to a church-based tournament, you can stay together, but then there'll be some more restrictions to you. If you want to transition to a fully, church-based team like everyone else, then, all those restrictions will be lifted. And so it's kind of our way to kind of incentivize this church-based rule and not kind of like give favoritism to like one team who doesn't really comply with all the other rules that every other team is complying to.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate the answer. I do think it'd be good if we talked at a later time, just to be respectful of everyone else's time. It's just naturally none of us are at those churches anymore. And that's just the reality of where we're at in our lives. So to consider longevity and where we're going in the future, we'd love to still play, but it always seems like we'll be at a disadvantage. But we can talk about it later.
All right, sounds good.
Great. Jomi, a question I'm going to direct to you. Is the combined women's and men's tournament a permanent decision?
I think that's the plan. I think a lot of reasons behind it. I think logistically it's beneficial. I think from a sharing and pooling of resources and budget, it's extremely beneficial. From a commitment, I get that there's some other team logistical challenges, but I think those are things that we can transcend over time. So that's the plan. That's not to say that it's that for some reason, if there is some logic around it, that can't or may not change long term. But I think for the foreseeable future, that's the approach we're going to take.
We got a question if the taco truck is coming back this year. I hope so. They were fantastic and wonderful people to work with, and they had fun, and I hope they'll come back. I got a question about, are there no major rule changes from last year? And Sean, I believe that's correct. No major rule changes, right?
No major rule changes that I can think of.
Okay. Jomi, I have a question I'm going to direct to you. Can we add stiff arms to the rules, please?
Again, our purpose is to keep it safe, right? I think definitely football, the stiff arm is a common move. It's, to some extent, it's probably hard to turn off for guys who play a lot of football. I think, what we have to consider is that we've got people who are 15 all the way up to some older folks in their early 40s, mid 40s, perhaps. And so it's not just an age gap, it's a significant skill gap. So from a safety perspective, that's one of the reasons we do not allow stiff arms. And again, if you're reaching for a flag, it also confuses where you protecting the flag, which is flag guarding. So the other half of it, above and beyond safety, is rule enforceability. So it keeps it simple for our refs. So for that reason, we don't have any plans to add stiff arms back to the rules.
Another question about more food trucks. Absolutely. If you have contacts, please send them our way. We got a question on, can we go back to handheld human video recording instead of fixed cameras like last year? 100%. We dropped the ball big time on video last year, and looking forward to fixing that for the upcoming tournament. We got a question on, when will new board members be announced? Not sure. We actually just wrapped up the interview, and we're still going through the process of picking from that pool.
Yeah,
We get
by the MFL tournament, we should be able to announce who the new board members are.
awesome. We got a question. Did any women apply to join the board? Unfortunately, no. We're hoping in the next round when we open it up that some will. We're very hopeful for that. Show me a question I'm going to direct to you for the winter tourney. Will you guys add more roster spots? Right now it's capped at 10. Would we consider going up to 12?
Yeah, I think it's on the table. We're talking about it. I think the challenge is always, the bigger we make the roster, the less teams or less kids that will take the initiative to form their own team because there aren't enough kids available. So it's a balance, but it's definitely a discussion point.
Let's see. Question for you as well, Jomi. Seems like the women's teams are expanding. Would we consider going to 7-on-7?
I think that's not. It's not off the table. I think that question has been asked before, and I think I'll just repeat the same answer. I think the depth of experience for all athletes that are starting in the sport, it's easier to pick up 5-on-5 versus 7-on-7. The 7-on-7 format is significantly more technical. It takes a lot more time to get to a certain level of competency compared to the 5-on-5. But if there was a desire for it, I think the board would be open to that discussion.
Let's see. Sean, I'll direct this to you. When do we expect the next round of MFL board applications to open up?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. We'll see who if we have enough numbers to select sufficient board members this round. If we do need if we don't have enough board members to fulfill all those roles, then next year we'll do this application process again.
Hey,
But
Toby, can I just go back
yeah.
and add to my answer regarding the women playing 7-on-7? I think one of the challenges for both men and women on the 7-on-7 format is typically it's challenging for all communities, all church communities to find skill players that fit each position, especially on the O-line side. So I think expanding something to consider is if we were to do that, it would make it more challenging for a smaller church community to field a team, whereas for 5-on-5, it's easier from a skill set perspective to build a team. So I think there's some drawbacks to consider in terms of going the other way, going to the 7-on-7 format.
Jomi, a question I'll direct to you. Are there rules against eye black? I'm not entirely sure what the
I think it's talking about the stuff you put under your eyes. I think it helps with reflection. I don't think so. I can't see the safety risk that would pose.
And we've had athletes wear it in the past without concern. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think once we had an issue with, inappropriate verbiage, kind of embedded or embossed into the, so I don't think so. That's a very specific question.
There's no issue with that. I can think of.
I'm going to summarize the next point poorly, but can we have clear communication about the tournaments? And I think that's something we're working on as a board, and why we're doing the MFL Town Hall is to get our message out earlier in the MFL season, let people know about dates as early as possible. We've definitely dropped a ball in the past, but looking to do better. Sean, I'll direct this to you. If the women's team roster expand beyond the point of creating playing time for all athletes, can church teams split like some of the men's teams do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, within your church, you can have as many teams as you want. So, yeah, we have a cap, or we don't have a cap, but you have the choice. If you have like 30, 40 people who want to be part of the team, then create 3 or 4 teams. And you can divvy it up however you want and bring those teams out to play. So you have full discretion and ownership and ability to control how many teams you can bring to the tournament.
Jomi, a question for you. Will there ever be field goal attempts in the future of the MFL?
Great question. In the traditional sense, probably not. I think booking a football field is logistically challenging. Also, the field doesn't line up with the MFL field. So having a formal field goal is unlikely. In some tournaments that we've played in, there's a, if you score, if it's fourth, then you're inside the 50-yard line, and you have the option to go for a one-time pass from the 20-yard line, and that equates to a field goal opportunity. We've talked about in the past. There hasn't been too much discussion or interest around it, so I think maybe that's an opportunity. If we got enough interest, we'd consider more seriously, but it's not on necessarily the docket at this point.
We got a question about the number of teams that can join because it's a cap. I just want to clarify, there is no number of team cap for the summer tournament. We've had upwards of 10 teams, and if we get more than 10 teams, fantastic. We'll find a way to make that work. For winter, we do cap. I think that's what the question is. Okay. So to that point, for that winter tournament, it's first come, first serve. So when registration opens, whatever team sign up, they get in. We don't balance which churches get what number of teams. If that is a problem going forward, we'll work on that. Somebody asked, when is the captain's meeting? I do not know. We will follow up and let you guys know. We have a follow-up question. Sean, is there a minimum roster requirement for the women's tournament?
Is there a minimum rosters required? No.
I can answer that, Don.
Yeah, go on, Joey.
I think the technical minimum for 5-on-5 is 4. Typically anything less than that is a team is disqualified. So I know that sounds like a silly answer, but that's based on the league that we pull these rules from. So technically, if you have 5 people, you've got enough for a team. Even 4, we've seen teams get away with. Would we recommend that for an all-day tournament? No, absolutely not.
Jomi, a question I'll point to you. Have we ever considered a 2-day tournament, regular season on Saturday and playoffs on Sunday?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's what Toby was referring to when he said if there were enough teams, we would figure it out. That's probably the approach we would take. I think for most, and definitely open to feedback from the community as a whole. It just seems cleaner and simpler to get it done in one day. That's, it's worked for everybody. Moving it into 2 days adds some costs and some other logistical challenges. But I think the primary trigger to go to a 2-day tournament would be capacity, field capacity, and number of teams. So absolutely that could happen.
Has there ever been a conversation about having a co-ed tournament?
We've had brief conversations about it. I'm sorry, Toby, I'll go ahead and answer it. We've had brief conversations. Yeah, I think it requires a lot of rule adjustments if anyone's played in a co-ed league or tournament before. So we haven't taken it too much further. I think, again, if there was enough interest, it's something that we would look at. We also have to find a time for additional tournaments to work in, just the community's availability window. So we've got a couple tournaments in the summer. We've got at least one in the winter, potentially two. We got to find another, season and month where everybody is interested, willing, and available, which is also a challenge.
All right, it's almost 10 o'clock, so I think we'll field out the last question here. Jomi, I'll direct it to you. Is it possible to allow strip sacks and fumble recovery?
So that's one of the rules that we changed because if for the larger community, if you've ever seen a group of guys or ladies, dig for a fumble, that pile can become, getting into it can be very physical, a lot of opportunity for injury. So for that reason, almost all flag football, when the ball drops, is a dead ball, and we're probably going to continue with that approach.
Fantastic. And
did you say sacks in there, Toby? Strips, sacks, and fumble recovery.
Strip. Yeah.
Yeah, because sacks is allowed.
Strip.
You can sack the QB.
No, but you can't strip the ball out of the QB's hand, is I think what the individual is referring to.
Okay.
Gotcha. And to the many players from football team who have sent us some very valuable feedback, we will read through all of it as a board and follow up with all of you. With that said, I think it's time to wrap up. This has been a fantastic town hall. Thank you all for the questions. Jomi, Sean, any closing thoughts?
No, just looking forward to everyone in August. Thanks for everyone for being here.
Absolutely.
Yep, agreed. And again, if you have additional questions or topics you want to talk about, whether you're an athlete or a captain, our email is there. Reach us on Instagram, talk to us in person. We're here to help, and our goal again is to just help continue to invest and pour into this community, into this league, and we appreciate all you guys, especially the captains who make that happen.
Thank you, everyone.
And big thank you to Lexine.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you, Lexine.
Lexine.
Good night.
Night.